What's up, Pro Guides family? My name is Nathan Ng, and I'm really happy to be your host for today's video. Speaking of today's video, we'll be covering the top 10 champions in the top lane right now. We'll be having a short discussion about what makes these champions so strong and give you guys a little bit of important information about them. Make sure you hit that sub button because we want to continue dropping content to help you guys out. Now, let's jump right into the video. The first top laner that we'll be talking about is Gnar. There are no surprises here. He's been dominant for the past few patches now. In spite of the changes on patch 11.6 that have left him feeling a little bit weaker, Gnar continues to be a solid blind pick. His range mini form and powerful all-ins with his mega form make practically every matchup in the game playable. This is honestly Gnar's most important strength. Top lane is the most volatile because it's an isolated long lane and players want to always have a pick ready to fall back to. Getting counterpicked feels pretty bad, but playing Gnar can minimize the number of tough times that you have to go through. On top of all of this, Gnar isn't that hard to play. While he does have a high skill ceiling, it's really not so hard to play him well enough. None of his abilities are super difficult to land, and his ultimate, one of his strongest abilities, is an absolute no-brainer. When playing Gnar, know that his current core items are Defensive Boots, Stridebreaker, and Sterak's Gauge. Mobility is important on him as a Radiant champion, so a bunch of players will rush Boots, then move into Stridebreaker. From there, use your best judgment, but we provided some items to take into considerations. If you want to tank your build, items like Randuin's Omen and Thornmail are great options. Just to let you guys know, you can also check out ProGuides.com where we're offering 20% off subscriptions with the code RANKUP2021. You don't want to miss out, especially if you're trying to get better. Now, back to those champions. Fiora is one of the best top laners in the game right now. Especially in solo queue where things get hectic and players don't look at their minimap enough, Fiora can absolutely get the job done. She's extremely mobile and her W creates an incredible number of outplay opportunities. Unfortunately, one of the things that holds Fiora back is that she does require a little bit of practice to play well. While there are harder champions than her, she's unfortunately not the kind of champion that you can lock in for the first time and expect to dominate. After putting in some time though, you'll get in some practice reacting to crucial abilities or instead develop the game sense to predict them. Once you're comfortable using her ultimate, you should also have no difficulty winning isolated 1v1 fights. Fiora is an absolutely dominant solo queue pick because she's an incredible pressure sponge. With her top tier mobility and ability to block crowd control, she's not only a fearsome opponent, but also a freaking rat who can easily get herself out of harm's way. If you guys watch my streams at twitch.tv/Nathan_ing, you will know that I absolutely hate rats. That includes Twitch, the champion, not the website that I stream from. You don't always have to break turrets while split pushing. Bringing enemy team members opens up the map for the rest of your team, and there's no way that your team can lose a 4v2, right? There are a couple of builds for Fiora, and you should make sure to do your due diligence and try them all out. There are definitely matchups that favor different ones that you also could adapt to your own playstyle. We do see Stridebreaker built on her, but the two core builds that we see right now are Grasp Setup, followed by Essence Reaver Rush into Immortal Shield Bow, and the more vanilla Gore Drinker into Ravenous Hydra. We provided you guys with the latter build, but you can definitely look into the other builds as they're quite popular in Korea. Next, we have Camille. Much more dominant and high elo is no surprise as to why. Again, Camille is a champion who isn't the hardest to play, but to play her well takes a lot of practice and more importantly, matchup knowledge. Knowing how you should be playing is much more important. You can always practice the mechanical aspects of it, but the information is what's most important. Camille is another top laner who deals high damage, is incredibly mobile, and is able to take up the role of either split pusher or team fighter based on what her team needs from her. Camille is, just like her thematic design, adaptable to many situations. Her high damage and mobility are supported by a relatively tanky body. So essentially, she can do it all. However, a single mistake can make laning quite miserable, so you definitely need to have to do some trial and error to figure things out. Her core items are Trinity Force, Defensive Boots, and Ravenous Hydra. I mean, Darius is OP every single patch, but it doesn't hurt to reiterate, right? We thought that one nerf he received would finally drop him down a bit, but he continues to crush the souls of top laners left and right. Especially with the addition of Stridebreaker this season, chasing down enemies, activating your passive, and then cutting them down with the guillotine has never been easier. While the previous nerfs have definitely opened up a lot more room to outplay him, Darius is one of the most unforgiving champions in the game. Overstep just a little bit and he can expect to get pulled into not only his execute range, but also a very rough 10 minutes of gameplay. It's no surprise as to why he's banned so much. Players do not want to deal with him. While a lot of top laners might have confidence in their own abilities, from the perspective of someone playing a different role, you probably have seen too many fed Dariuses and don't want to risk it. His core items are Stridebreaker, Defensive Boots, and Sterak's Gauge. Again, he's a champion that can either build more damage, more health, or items purely catered towards defense. Since we just finished talking about Darius, here's our question of the day. What's harder for you to play against? Ranged top laners or top laners that run offensive summoner spells instead of teleport? Darius with Ghost gives me nightmares, and I've definitely gotten first blood by Renekton's running Ignite a few too many times as well. There's also Quinn that does both, but I'm personally going to say that it's the summoner spell disadvantages that do it for me. Let me know your answers in the comments down below. The queen of high elo is none other than Riven. This girl is absolutely insane, like my ex, but like in a different way, in the right hands. Expect to put in a good number of hours on her, however. With great power comes great responsibility, and if you don't want to be that one Riven that makes her whole team groan out of exasperation, put the time in. But if you want to just play the game casually, there's nothing wrong with picking her up because she's still a blast to play. While she had a shaky start this season, a major buff helped Riven find her place in the meta, and skilled players absolutely dominate games with her. Riven's high damage output and insane mobility make her a highlight-making machine. With enough ability haste, she becomes rather tanky, as well as her E short cooldown and AD scaling. Her core items are Gore Drinker, Ionian Boots, and either Essence Reaver or Black Cleaver based on the matchup. From there, you can build other items that provide both extra damage and some tankiness. Out of all the top lane tanks, Malphite is the one that most players find troublesome. I'm not necessarily talking about the other top laners though. There are counterpicks to Malphite, and he's not perfect because his playstyle is quite linear. The ones that find him the most annoying to play against are the marksman players. Life as a marksman is farming for 20 minutes and then getting one-shot by a rock. When you pick him up in Champion Select, that's your job. You can essentially invalidate the existence of one player on the enemy team. Malphite's synergy with armor also makes him a great pick into many top laner matchups, as AP top laners are quite rare at this moment. His notorious Q poke with Comet makes him a capable lane opponent that many players struggle to go against. Although he's quite linear, this is a double-edged sword. We'll mention that it makes it easier for counterpicks to shine, but in winning matchups, it's quite the opposite for Malphite. There's literally nothing an enemy can do to dodge his Q, so as long as you don't aim it at a minion, you can play Malphite. For his core build, you rush a Bramble Vest, then complete either Frostfire Gauntlet or Sunfire Cape. Finish up the Thornmail, then build a bunch of tank items based on the enemy team comp. Like Darius, Garen has benefited heavily from the addition of Stridebreaker. This item allows him to bypass one of his greatest weaknesses, struggling to break into the enemy backline. While there are still some better champions for it, once you do manage to reach your main target, you deal a ridiculous amount of damage as Garen. You're also pretty tanky too, so if your enemy doesn't have enough items, you can basically 1v9 and spin through all 5 opponents. Garen is a very straightforward champion, so the only thing that's holding you back from playing him at his skill ceiling is matchup knowledge. Every time that you play against a champion, take notes of what he could have done better against them next time. As you build up some experience and have some better understanding of what you need to do to win that lane, you should have no problems piloting the champion. Again, Garen is linear, and this serves to make winning matchups very easy and losing ones a big struggle. For his core items, build Berserker Greaves or Defensive Boots, Stridebreaker, and then Deadman's Blade. Next, we've got Urgot, who's been dominating low elo for a few patches now. He's also been a solid pick in high elo because of his incredible damage output. This is where Urgot shines. While he's not very mobile, he deals so much damage. His ultimate also makes him a very tough opponent to fight after level 6. You end up with very little breathing room against him, and you have to constantly keep your health topped off to stay out of execution range. Sometimes fights are unavoidable though, as Urgot can deal quite a little bit of damage to turrets with Titanic Hydra. This added pressure forces you to fight him at some point, and unfortunately, that's exactly what Urgot wants. In teamfights, Urgot is still a tanky beefcake that deals an excellent amount of damage. While his ultimate can be rather tricky to land, you can make it easier by landing one of your other abilities first. Practice can only help you, and understanding when you have to go all in for your kills is something that you can learn through experience. For his core items, rush Titanic Hydra, build Defensive Boots, and purchase either Stridebreaker or Frostfire Gauntlet as your core. A rising star in the top lane is Poppy. While Malphite is the most notorious tank, believe it or not, there are other ones in the game. Poppy is regarded quite highly by top level players because of her versatility. She's a great counter to mobile champions that high elo players have an affinity towards. This not only makes Poppy an excellent counter pick, but she's essentially forcing the entire enemy team to play differently. They have to adjust how they use their dashes, and at some point in every single game, there will be mind games that come into play. With her Q damage, Poppy is solid pick into top lane tanks and bruisers, while her W helps her win against many fighters. Her biggest strength, however, is the immense amount of utility that she brings. Of course, her Q is her bread and butter, as it provides enough damage to make her a relevant threat in fights. Her other 3 abilities are so good as well. W is one of the best abilities in the game as long as the enemy team isn't playing 5 bricks that don't move. Her E allows her to break in and single out targets, while her ultimate is a flexible ability that has plenty of uses. The final top lane pick that we'll be mentioning is one that most players know about, but not one that many play. Nocturne has been consistently performing well as a top laner. You can argue that one contributing factor is that players don't really know how to play against him. While he doesn't really have the same mobility as the other top laners, Nocturne's damage is terrifying. His Q helps him clear waves, and he gains a ton of raw stats from it, as well as from his W. When you put his Q, W, and E together, he essentially has everything that he needs to take on any other top laner: damage, crowd control, and a spell shield. In solo queue, you want to ideally sit back, chill, and not feed when you know your opponent is stronger than you. However, you can't do that with some sort of sacrifice if your opponent is playing Nocturne. His ultimate allows him to roam and apply an immense amount of pressure on other lanes. This leads to another huge mind game, where Nocturne players can just push in the wave, fake a roam, and bait their opponents into pushing the wave back. From there, they can instead use their ultimate to kill their lane opponent. While his ultimate serves as his main form of engage, Nocturne's spell shield makes it so hard for enemies to relatively peel him off. You normally have to use your crowd control as a get off me ability the moment that you're in danger. However, you have to be patient as you could instead waste it and also double Nocturne's bonus attack speed. For his core, you'll build defensive boots, stride breaker, and Sterex gauge. Alternatively, you can go for an assassin build with a Duskblade and lethality as well. We haven't really talked about the runes too much, but I'll quickly mention that the most important minor rune to run is Ultimate Hunter. Do not miss this one when you're playing him. That'll be covering our top 10 top laners. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. Do you have your own picks? You can also check out the description and the link to join our Discord, where you can go ahead and hang out with me. And Kangas, I guess. We'd love to have you hang out and be a part of the community, and until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.